Eazy-E left us with a legacy that continues to live on and inspire new generations of rappers. His powerful lyrics, which told stories of real life and social issues, remain relevant to this day. He is the godfather and founder of styles like gangsta rap and G-funk, and his creativity made a significant contribution to the culture that still delights fans. In this video, we will delve into the rapper's biography and provide a detailed account of Eazy-E's final days. So, let's get started. Eazy-E, whose real name was Eric Wright, was one of the most influential and famous rappers in the history of hip-hop. He founded the legendary group N.W.A. and paved the way for many young artists in the industry. He was born on September 7, 1964, in Compton, California. Eric Linnell Wright grew up in challenging social conditions, surrounded by violence and crime. He was of small stature, but his words and deep bass voice held immense power and influence. Close friends knew him as a father of 9 children, a ladies' man, and a simple guy with a well-filled wallet, which he generously shared with everyone, whether distant relatives, friends, or random acquaintances. Eazy-E began his music career in the late 1980s when he formed the group N.W.A. with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre. N.W.A. was one of the first groups to bring national attention to the issues facing the black population, and their music became an anthem for street life and a protest against police brutality.
Straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube, from the gang called niggas with attitude.
The powerful and provocative style of N.W.A., including the reimagining of the song Fuck the Police, attracted significant attention and elicited a strong reaction from the government and police.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad cause I'm brown.
However, this only amplified the group's influence and made them even more popular. Despite N.W.A.'s success, internal disagreements led to the group's breakup. Eazy-E embarked on a solo career and founded his own label, Ruthless Records. Under this label, he released his debut solo album, Eazy Does It, which received wide acclaim and went platinum.
Well, I'm Eazy-E, I got bitches galore. You might have a lot of bitches, but I got much more.
Eazy-E was a unique rapper who combined charisma, power, and talent. He pushed the boundaries of hip-hop and became one of its most recognizable figures. His voice and rap style served as inspiration for many young artists, and his influence remains significant to this day. Unfortunately, his career was cut short in 1995 when he passed away from complications related to AIDS. The disease claimed Eazy-E's life in a matter of days. On February 16th, he was working in a studio in Torrance, California. Suddenly, he began to experience hoarseness and felt he was on the verge of collapse due to weakness. Eazy-E's bodyguards, twins Jacob and John Tovio, rushed him to the nearest hospital. On March 1st, he was diagnosed with AIDS, and less than a month later, he passed away. Let's take a closer look at what Eazy-E himself said about this disease, how his friends and loved ones reacted to the news, as well as his fans. Early in the morning on March 1st, Eric planned to call his beloved and tell her that he had been diagnosed with AIDS. He intended to inform Tamika Woods, the mother of their 1-year-old son Dominic, that the doctor had just reported a positive HIV test result, and that it was possible that both Tamika and their future second child were also infected. However, Eric became extremely nervous, mumbled something, and dropped the phone. That's when the doctor took the phone and explained everything. Later, Tamika, along with Dominic, underwent HIV tests, which turned out to be negative. The only thought on the girl's mind was, quote, who could have infected Eric? She had suspected before that he had been with other women, but tried not to attach much importance to it. It didn't particularly affect our family, says Tamika. No hysterical calls, no illnesses. I thought, okay, let it be. While Tamika may have been tolerant of Eric's 4-hour refueling trips, she couldn't calmly watch a procession of women entering his room. The rapper also feared that he would be labeled as gay. After all, he had only just begun to regain society's trust after the unpleasant incidents in the early 90s. But how did the media and listeners find out about this? Undoubtedly, news like this reaches the streets of South Central quickly. The official explanation for Eric's absence, lying in the hospital at the doctor's insistence, was announced on the air of his weekly show, Ruthless Radio Show. However, Eric never managed to refute the rumors that he had contracted it as a result of homosexual contact. Fortunately, Eric's mother did not learn about her son's illness from rumors. According to Tamika, Eric eventually mustered the courage to tell her himself, just a couple of days after he found out. Her reaction was brief. She declined an interview, saying only, I don't want to cry again. Eric's friends and acquaintances vividly remember how they learned about his plight. Ice Cube heard the news from a friend whose mother worked at the hospital and, breaking the rules, told her son about Eazy's diagnosis. In memory of Eazy-E, Ruthless Records released a DVD tribute, Eazy-E, Impact of a Legend.
1, 2, 3 into the 4. Easy motherfucking E with the chrome to your dome. Cruise man, then again, I can still put a chrome 9 to your dome. Pole nigga,
DJ Quick recounted overhearing a conversation on a plane, stating, "I like to eavesdrop on people." So, on the plane, they were really talking about Eazy having AIDS. My cell phone was off, and when we landed at the Los Angeles airport, a friend approached me and confirmed what I had heard on the plane. I remember feeling like my world was falling apart. Realizing that he wouldn't recover, Eazy suddenly decided to marry Tamika and pass on to her the reins of Ruthless Records. In all discussions of their possible wedding, Tamika, as if foreseeing the future, insisted on a very modest ceremony. Eric, on the other hand, dreamed of a wedding in the style of Al Capone. She in a luxurious wedding dress, he in a tuxedo, a crowd of guests. They couldn't imagine that they would marry on March 22nd, 1995, in a sterile hospital room with only Eric's close family, security guards, doctors, and a lawyer in attendance. Naturally, it never crossed their minds that the groom would be so weak that he wouldn't even be able to stand. After the wedding, Eric's family decided that his illness could no longer be kept secret from the public. Rumors about his condition spread beyond Compton, and false information could only do harm. With the help of his mother, Eric drafted a statement that the lawyer read on March 16th in Hollywood. Here's a quote from it. "I'm not one who likes to read notations, but I feel it's time to clarify the situation because I know there are people who care about me, who worry about me, listening to all the nonsense being spread right now. I'm saying this not to garner sympathy. I just feel that thousands of my admirers and fans, young people, should know the truth about AIDS. Last week I felt it personally. AIDS can touch any of you. It doesn't distinguish by skin color or social status. What happened after everyone found out about it? The phones in the hospital didn't stop ringing. Everyone was calling. Fervent fans, well-wishers, reporters, former lovers, and anonymous threats of death. Eric had to disconnect the phone in his room and remove the pager batteries." Eric's brother, Kenneth, recalls, quote, "After the news broke, the situation simply spiraled out of control. I remember one lady, disguised as a nurse, sneaked into the room. She wanted to finish Eric off. The family had to hire security guards from one of the gangs to replace the police officers who had been guarding Eric. Disputes also began among the women who had children with Eric. They all wanted to inherit something from Eazy-E. After all attempts at treatment and fighting for his life, he passed away on March 26. What were the consequences after Eazy-E's death? First of all, it's worth noting that Eric died very quickly, and none of his women or children tested positive for the virus. Doubts arose as to whether he really had AIDS. Many, including Tamika, do not believe it. There are several versions of why things turned out this way. The rapper's brother, Kenneth, who studied the progression from HIV to AIDS, said this, quote, "They said he had pneumonia. I knew his lungs were damaged, but it all happened too fast. If his disease had developed as it does in AIDS patients, I would have believed it, but it wasn't like that, and he looked perfectly fine. So the version about AIDS is implausible to me." The son was convinced that his father was killed because of his overly successful career. He said, "Someone just couldn't accept that a black guy achieved such success. I think he was killed." One version from a close insider was even more sensational. There's an opinion that Jerry Heller killed Eazy-E. He said, "Eric once talked about how Heller is connected to the mafia and was taking all his money, so he didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. In the end, they split up. But you know, the mafia doesn't forgive this. If you want to break up with them, they just take you out. Maybe now I'm in danger, but someone had to tell this." After Eazy-E's death, Heller tried to sue his widow for rights to Ruthless Records. He managed to secure a large percentage of the company's profits. However, Heller's connections to the mafia and his involvement in Eazy-E's death were not investigated. He himself refuses to comment on this version. Over 3,000 people gathered at Eric's funeral.
I'm not looking to blame anyone except myself. I feel that I've got thousands and thousands of young fans that have to learn about what's real when it comes to AIDS. I'd like to turn my own problem into something good that will reach out to all my homeboys and their kin because I want to save them before it's too late.
The Tovia twins were by his side again. They carried the coffin. Eric Jr. threw the first handful of soil into his father's grave, and so, the legend of hip-hop, Eazy-E, left this world.
About to go and damn near went blind. Young niggas at the pad throwing up gang signs.
And that's all for today. What do you think about Eazy-E and his legacy? Write your opinion in the comments, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye, everyone.